Jai Opetaia leaves Tyson Fury's training camp after reportedly sparring just 5 rounds together. Welcome back to Pro Boxing Fans. Now, today we're going to talk about a fight that is coming up, the biggest heavyweight fight arguably in 25 years. That is Tyson Fury against Oleksandr Usyk, February 17th in Saudi Arabia. That fight is just 3 weeks away on Saturday. That is coming up quick. And Fury, of course, has been trying to get some good sparring partners in to replicate the tricky southpaw style of Oleksandr Usyk. Now, one guy who was in training camp was the IBF Cruiserweight champion Jai Opetaia, who I believe is on the undercard of Fury Usyk, and he's going to rematch Maris Bradis. Now, there was a lot of intrigue and excitement online when it was announced that Opetaia would be helping Fury in camp. He's seen as potentially the closest replica to that of Usyk's style. He's a powerful southpaw, he's got angles, and as he's proven in the last few fights, that he is a big problem in the cruiserweight division and potentially one day might move up to heavyweight. Now, it was reported on Sunday that Opetaia had left Fury's training camp. Now, Australian media reported on Sunday that Opetaia had flown back to Australia after spending some time in Fury's training camp in Saudi Arabia, and apparently they'd only sparred 5 rounds together. The reason given was that Opetaia couldn't get enough orthodox sparring for this fight with Bradis. Obviously, Bradis is orthodox. Fury can switch stances, but he doesn't have the dimensions that Bradis has, obviously. And Fury's only got southpaw sparring in there from what we understand. And then there was some rumours on social media that the reason Opetaia was leaving early was because he dropped Fury in sparring. Now, this is not unheard of. These rumours going round close to big fights about what's happened in sparring. But it caused a bit of a stir online because people expected him to be there for longer. He's, like I said, potentially the closest replica to Usyk. So people did expect him to be there a bit longer. So those rumours were flying about. Let's not forget, Fury was dropped against Francis Ngannou in his last fight in October. But this was swiftly denied by Opetaia's co-promoters, Tasman Fighters. Of course, Opetaia's with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing, and he's co-promoted by Tasman. And they said in a statement, Jai Opetaia has recently returned from Saudi Arabia where he sparred and trained with Tyson Fury. They were fantastic competitive rounds and an incredible experience for Jai. However, any talk of either boxer being dropped is not true. Jai is now back in Australia finalising his preparation to defend his world title and cannot wait to do so in Saudi Arabia. So that is the statement from Tasman Fighters, completely denying these suggestions that Fury was dropped by Opetaia in sparring. Now, even if he was dropped, how much of that is relevant? We have to believe them at face value. They're the guys who have been in the camp, presumably, and they're saying not true. But even if there is some truth to these rumours, how much of that really matters heading into the fight? I mean, sparring, like they always say, is completely different to being in the ring with someone. Opetaia, as much as he is similar to Usyk, they're not the same fighters. And how much would that really affect the fight performance? It's completely different sparring when you're behind closed doors. There's only a couple of people watching to when you're fighting for the undisputed heavyweight championship. The pressure's a completely different level. You're in front of a full house and millions watching on TV, and the whole world will be watching that fight. Casual fans will be watching that. Another thing you've got to take into consideration as well is that a lot of fighters will spar each other before fights. They might have done several training camps together and then fought each other years later. I mean, even in the amateur game, you remember when Dillian Whyte dropped Joshua in sparring? When they fought in the professionals, Joshua stopped him. So not saying it's completely irrelevant because, Ricky Hatton's gone on record to say before the Manny Pacquiao fight, he was dropped in sparring. And at that point, he knew that he wasn't going to win the fight. So mentally, it can affect fighters. But for me, it's a completely different situation. I think the main thing is, Fury isn't injured from, there's been no rumours about that. And that's the main thing that matters. But they are denying it. There's a picture of Tyson Fury's training camp, a bunch of people in the photo, like Sugar Hill, his brother Shane, Isaac Lowe, and what seems to be 3 sparring partners who are Moses Atoma, who is the rising heavyweight prospect. A lot of people see him as the future of British boxing. You've got Kevin Lorena, who's a former world title challenger. He challenged Daniel Dubois. If you remember, that was on the Fury Chisora card at Tottenham. And there's an undefeated Canadian heavyweight called Alexis Barriere. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. But these are all southpaws, all in camp. And Atoma as well is a great sparring partner for Fury. So we don't know, like I say, what's been happening in camp. But it seems to be that Fury is getting the work in that he needs. There was a lot of rumours going around that Fury didn't prepare properly for Francis Ngannou, but he seems to have got his head down for this one. And who knows what he took from sparring Jai Opetaia. Maybe he's taken a lot from that Opetaia spar and that was all that was needed. Like we say, Maris Bradis isn't a southpaw, isn't going to be, Tyson Fury isn't going to be great sparring for Opetaia in terms of preparing him for Maris Bradis, but obviously that is brilliant experience for him. So let me know what you think in the comments. There's been no comment from Tyson Fury himself or, his promoters, Frank Warren or Bob Arum yet, but I'm sure this will be a topic of debate and conversation as we lead up to February 17th in Saudi Arabia. And also let me know in the comments, who do you think has a more difficult task in preparing for each other? Tyson Fury trying to get in the right sparring partners for a tricky, awkward southpaw like Usyk who moves, he floats in and out, he uses his angles really well. Or is it Usyk who has to try and find sparring partners to replicate a 6'9" fighter who can move and switch, who has power? So let me know who do you think has the more difficult job in preparing for this fight. But stay tuned right here to Pro Boxing Fans. We'll have much more coverage on Fury against Usyk as we lead up to the undisputed heavyweight title fight. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.